Hi and welcome to the Resources Roadhouse Lockdown Lowdown series, and today I'm joined by Mike Young, who's Managing Director of Vimy Resources. Now Mike, you recently completed a successful fundraising of $5.5 million, which is nothing to sneeze at in the current climate. No doubt you'll be putting that money to good use across your portfolio of uranium projects, being the Alligator River project in the Northern Territory and the Mulga Rock project in WA. Um, I suppose it all comes down to which way you want to spread the funds and where you want to start first. So if you could just tell us how you're going to go about things.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Wally. It's good to be on again. And look, I appreciate your support and what you do for the mining industry. It's a great work there. Yeah, so it was a good raise, $5.5 million. The raise was done out of Melbourne by a group called GK Capital Partners, and we had a lot of new money come in. We had existing shareholders come in as well, so it was good to see some new funds out of Melbourne and America putting money in. Obviously, the Americans really get the uranium space being closer to it than the Australians. But, you know, the uranium story, it's been tough to get out there, but for the last couple of years, there's been a lot more work done by groups like Canaccord and Tribeca, who are putting a lot of information into the market about where we expect the price to go. And fundamentally, you know, on a macro scale, the uranium story is one about shortage of supply as we move into the 20s. And, you know, that's a fundamental shortage that's been accelerated by COVID. And what COVID did was it basically brought forward the price rises we were expecting because two major producers shut down production. So it was a good opportunity for us to raise money. There was a lot of interest. The market has softened a bit because we saw these catalysts, and what happened to the prices, what always happens to the spot prices, with a lack of catalyst or with a lack of buying by utilities, dominantly from America. The traders just sort of churn the uranium, and what you see a range-bound price between about 33 and 34, and that'll continue for some time until we start seeing some buying. But what it's done is it's refocused people's attention on the uranium space. So we were able to raise that money. We have two projects, as you mentioned in the introduction, Mulga Rock and Alligator River. Mulga Rock, we completed a DFS on that project about 2 years ago. And we're currently undertaking what we call a refresh. At first, it was really just, you know, going back to the price assumptions and just checking that prices were still valid. But we decided to look a little bit deeper, and we're finding some good results from that. So we're probably going to spend a bit more money on that, do a little bit more study. Important to emphasize that we won't be changing the mining methods or what we call the metallurgical flow sheet, because those are pretty robust and we're pretty happy with them. But some of our assumptions around reagents and how we get them, and also the mining fleet. So we had assumed that it would be owner operate, and that obviously has a large capital cost, but a lower operating cost. And we found a partner. We've got sort of an innovative solution that we're looking at. And, you know, once that's all done and we put it all together, we're hoping to get the capital numbers significantly lower without having a corresponding hit on the operating side. So look, we're looking forward to that, and some of the raise will go into that as well. As we move towards completing our approvals and, you know, getting contracts and getting the project funded, there is some work called front-end engineering and design. So the best way to think about that is it's post-DFS, but pre-construction. That's some test work that we have to do on dewatering and pumping like that. So we've got a component of the raise. We'll go towards that in the field season once we get through winter. And then up in the Northern Territory, happily, with the great work that's been done by Western Australia and the Northern Territory with respect to COVID and really shutting it down, the territory borders are opening up, and we believe that we'll be able to have a field season at the Alligator River project. And we've got some really exciting targets up there. There's an existing resource called Angularly of about 26 million pounds at 1.3%, very high grade. If that project were fully permitted and mine ready, you would be mining that even at today's prices. It's a very robust project. We won't do any follow-up work on that this year, but we have some great targets south of that at Suchwao, and we also have a new area we identified last year called Southern Flank. And the access to that area is very good. We will do some Aboriginal heritage surveys in that area and get some RC rigs in there in this field season. So that'll be part of it as well. We also have marketing ongoing in America. We've got a guy over in America, Scott Hyman, who's very active. When the utilities do start writing contracts, we're going to be, right at the front of the queue, and having a guy like Scott in America to do that, that makes a big difference to Vimy. In fact, one of the uranium analysts said it really puts us ahead of the curve, having that guy in the market and understanding the market. We get a lot of market intelligence from Scott. We clearly don't share it because that's a competitive advantage. So, it makes us very confident in getting contracts relatively soon and moving the project forward.
All right. Well, that all sounds like you're going to be very busy at the moment for the next, or at least the next 6 months out there. Even though there won't be too much happening up at Alligator River, obviously Mulga Rock is going to be keeping you busy.
Yeah, that's right, and that's desktop stuff. So that was stuff that didn't get affected so much by COVID. In fact, ironically, the way the world's moved more to Zoom meetings like this one, it's actually made it easier to interface with the consultants and other people who are inputting into the project. And it's been interesting to go through this in Australia, and just learn that business can be done differently and more efficiently. And I'm not traveling at all. And that saves the company money. There is some detrimental effect to not having face-to-face meetings, but we have spent so much time with the U.S. utilities. We know them all really well. So having these sorts of meetings are now as effective. So yeah, we've been busy. We're pretty confident we'll be up probably in August, September up in the Northern Territory, and that field season goes into October, and you can push it into November. So, the back half of the calendar year is going to be uber busy for us. But we keep plugging away, and hopefully we can secure contracts this year and start moving that Mulga Rock project towards production, because really that's the long-term goal for us, is to get the Mulga Rock project up, operating and producing cash flow, and that's a real sustainable value add for shareholders.
Yeah, and once it does get up and start running for you, it'll also be pretty much a feather in your cap too for being able to get the like a uranium project up and running in Western Australia.
Yeah, it's a bit harder than iron ore and gold. There's the regulatory framework is a bit tougher for uranium. Rightly so. It's the type of commodity that it is. But I think Australia, obviously with 30% of the world's known uranium resources, it's going to play a leading role in clean energy going into the future. Nuclear is growing. Countries are realizing that nuclear energy does provide 24/7 baseload power, and small modular reactors, while they're still in their infancy and aren't commercial yet, they're certainly moving forward very quickly. And I think that really is the future, particularly in the OECD countries. Because once you start producing these things, the cost comes down. And I think eventually, one day before I pass on to the next world, I would hopefully see nuclear power in Australia. And being a geologist, Wally, as you know, we're eternal optimists. But hopefully one day that'll happen.
Well, Mike, you've always said that you'd be one person who could breathe underwater, so you'll be able to breathe in the next life as well, probably. But all right, well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Good news to go on with. That's given us plenty of scope for what you're up to, so plenty of us to follow up on later on. So no doubt we'll be hearing from Vimy down the track and what's going on, and hopefully when the next lot of news does come out, we'll be able to chat again. So until then, Mike Young from Vimy Resources, thanks for once again being a guest here at the Resources Roadhouse.
Thanks, Wally. Thanks very much.